and girls, good morning. Today we're going to keep reading Ramona the Pest, and today we're reading Chapter 4, which is called The Substitute. You know how much Ramona loves her teacher, Miss Spinney. Do you think she's going to be happy about having a substitute? Chapter 4, The Substitute. Before long, Mrs. Quimby and Mrs. Kemp decided the time had come for Ramona and Howie to walk to school by themselves. Mrs. Kemp, pushing Willa Jean in her stroller, walked Howie to the Quimby's house, where Ramona's mother invited her in for a cup of coffee. "You better put all your stuff away," Howie advised Ramona as his mother lifted his little sister out of the stroller. Willa Jean crawls around and chews things. Grateful for this advice, Ramona closed the door of her room. "Now, Howie, you be sure to look both ways before you cross the street," cautioned his mother. "You too, Ramona," said Mrs. Quimby, "and be sure you walk on the sidewalk. Don't go running out in the street." "Cross between the white lines," said Mrs. Kemp. "And wait for the traffic boy near the school," said Mrs. Quimby. "And don't talk to strangers," said Mrs. Kemp. Ramona and Howie, weighed down by the responsibility of walking themselves to school, trudged off down the street. Howie was even gloomier than usual, because he was the only boy in the morning kindergarten who wore jeans with only one hip pocket. All the other boys had 2 hip pockets. "That's silly," said Ramona, still inclined to be impatient with Howie. If Howie did not like his jeans, why didn't he make a great big noisy fuss about them? Remember, that's how Ramona gets her way. When something happens that she doesn't like, she makes a great big fuss. "No, it isn't," contradicted Howie. "Jeans with one hip pocket are babyish." At the cross street, Ramona and Howie stopped and looked both ways. They saw a car coming a block away, so they waited. They waited and waited. When the car finally passed, they saw another car coming a block away in the opposite direction. They waited some more. At last the coast was clear, and they walked, hurrying across the street. "Whew!" said Howie, relieved that they were safely across. The next intersection was easier because Henry Huggins, in his red traffic sweater and his yellow cap, was the traffic boy on duty. Ramona was not awed by Henry, even though he often got to hold up cement and lumber trucks delivering. Let me start that sentence over. Ramona was not awed by Henry, even though he often got to hold up cement and lumber trucks delivering material for the market that was being built across from the school. She had known Henry and his dog Ribsy as long as she could remember, and she admired Henry because not only was he a traffic boy, he also delivered papers. Now Ramona looked at Henry, who was standing with his feet apart and his hands clasped behind his back. Ribsy was sitting beside him, as if he were watching traffic too. Just to see what Henry would do, Ramona stepped off the curb. Here's the picture. See, Ramona's over here, 1 foot's off the curb, and Henry Huggins is watching her from the other side. "You get back on that curb, Ramona," Henry ordered, above the noise of the construction on the corner. Ramona set 1 foot back on the curb. "All the way, Ramona," said Henry. Ramona stood with both heels on the curb, but her toes out over the gutter. Henry could not say she was not standing on the curb, so he just glared. When several boys and girls were waiting to cross the street, Henry marched across with Ribsy, the dog, prancing along beside him. "Go away, Ribsy," said Henry in between his teeth. Ribsy paid no attention. Directly in front of Ramona, Henry executed a sharp about-face, which means he turned around real quick, like a real soldier. Ramona marched behind Henry, stepping as close to his sneakers as she could. The other children laughed. On the opposite curb, Henry tried to execute another military about-face, but instead he tripped over Ramona. "Ah, Ramona," he said, angry. "If you don't cut that out, I'm going to report you." "Nobody reports kindergartners," scoffed an older boy. "Well, I'm going to report Ramona if she doesn't cut it out," said Henry. Obviously, Henry felt it was his bad luck that he had to guard an intersection where Ramona crossed the street. Yeah, I think he's got a lot of work trying to keep Ramona safe crossing the street. Between crossing the street without a grown-up and getting so much attention from Henry, Ramona felt that her day was off to a good start. However, as she and Howie approached the kindergarten building, she saw at once that something was wrong. The door to the kindergarten was already open. No one was playing on the jungle gym. No one was running around on the playground. No one was even waiting in line by the door. Instead, the boys and girls were huddled in groups like frightened mice. They all looked worried, and once in a while, someone who looked brave would run to the open door, look inside, and come running back to one of the groups to report something. "What's the matter?" asked Ramona. "Miss Benny isn't there," whispered Susan. "It's a different lady." "A substitute," said Eric R. "Miss Benny not there?" Susan must be wrong. Miss Benny had to be there. Kindergarten would not be kindergarten without Miss Benny. Ramona ran right to the door to see her for herself. But Susan was right. Miss Benny was not there. The woman who was busy at Miss Benny's desk was taller and older. She was as old as a mother. Her dress was brown and her shoes were sensible. Ramona did not like what she saw at all, so she ran back to a cluster of boys and girls. "What are we going to do?" she asked, feeling as if she had been deserted by Miss Benny. For her teacher to go home and not come back was not right. Yeah, I know I've had to be sick some days. I've had to take some days off. Then you come to school and there's a substitute. How does that feel? You feel like everything's going to be great, or are you worried? Susan said, "I think I'll go home." But Ramona thought this idea was babyish of Susan. She had seen what happened to the boys and girls who ran home from kindergarten. Their mothers marched them right straight back again. That's what happened. No, going home would not do. "I bet the substitute won't even know the rules of our kindergarten," said Howie. The children agreed. Miss Benny said following the rules of their kindergarten was important. How could the stranger know what the rules were? A stranger would not even know the names of the boys and girls. She might get them mixed up. Still feeling that Miss Benny was disloyal to stay away from school, Ramona made up her mind that she was not going into that kindergarten room with that strange teacher. Nobody could make her go in there. But where could she go? She could not go home because her mother would march her back. She could not go into the main building of Glenwood School because everyone would know a girl her size belonged out in the kindergarten. She had to hide, but where? Do you think this is a good idea? Ramona's going to hide instead of going into class. When the first bell rang, Ramona knew she did not have much time. There was no place to hide on the kindergarten playground, so she slipped around behind the little building and joined the boys and girls who were walking into the red brick main building. "Kindergarten, baby," a first grader shouted at Ramona. "Pie face," answered Ramona with a spirit. She could only see two places to hide: behind the bicycle racks or behind a row of trash cans. Ramona chose the trash cans. At last, all the children entered the building, and she got down on her hands and knees and crawled into the space between the cans and the red brick wall. The second bell rang. The traffic boys started marching back from their posts at the intersections near the school. Ramona crouched, motionless, on the asphalt. The traffic boys, heads up, eyes front, marched past the trash cans and into the building. The playground was quiet, and Ramona was alone. Henry's dog Ribsy, who had followed the traffic boys as far as the door of the school, came trotting over to check out the smells of the trash cans. He put his nose down to the ground and whiffled around the cans while Ramona crouched motionless in the rough asphalt, digging into her knees. Ribsy's busy nose led him around the cans, face to face with Ramona. "Woof!" said Ribsy. "Ribsy, go away!" ordered Ramona in a whisper. "Woof, woof!" Ribsy knew Ramona was not supposed to be behind the trash cans. "You be quiet!" Ramona's whisper was as ferocious as she could make it. Over in the kindergarten, the class began to sing the song about the Donzer. At least this strange woman knew that much about kindergarten. After the Donzer song, the kindergarten was quiet. Ramona wondered if the teacher knew that show and tell was supposed to come next. She strained her ears, but she could not hear anything from the little building. The space between the brick wall and the trash cans began to feel as cold as a refrigerator to Ramona in her thin sweater. The asphalt dug into her knees, so she sat down with her feet straight out towards Ribsy's nose. The minutes dragged by. Except for Ribsy, Ramona was lonely. She leaned against the chilly red bricks and felt sorry for herself. Poor little Ramona, all alone except for Ribsy, behind the trash cans. Miss Binny would be sorry if she knew what she had made Ramona do. She would be sorry if she knew how cold and lonesome Ramona was. Ramona felt so sorry for the poor little shivering child behind the trash cans that one tear and then another slid down her cheeks. She sniffed pitifully. Ribsy opened one eye and looked at her before he closed it again. Not even Henry's dog cared what happened to her. That's where we're going to stop for today. I'll finish reading the chapter tomorrow.